It is almost the spooky season, so today we are talking about some anticipated releases for October. This is by no means the entire list. This is going to be fantasy and sci fi, some romantasy, thriller horrors that I thought sounded really cool, and I think a lot of you will be interested in as well. And I do really feel like I probably missed a big important one, so if you know of any other ones coming out, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the comments down below. I'm Morgan. If this is your first time here, I really do hope, though, that you find a new book that you enjoy and want to pick up. For the week of October 7th, we're going to start off in fantasy, with our first one up being, I think, the adult debut. Has she already done that with another book and I just don't remember? Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. It starts with a class in an old movie theater. Folklore 517, local legends and urban myths, taught by a woman called the Professor. Most students believe the professor's stories are just fiction, but Holland St. James has always been convinced that magic is real. When she tracks down a local legend named the Watchman, who can supposedly tell you when you'll die, the world finally makes sense, except that the Watchman tells her she will die at midnight tomorrow unless she finds an ancient object called the alchemical heart. I know a lot of people might already be diving into this one or have gotten access to it, so there's a lot of thoughts going on about this book and a lot of expectations some people are going to have. Then we have more of an urban fantasy, maybe? Hard to say with this one, and this one's also dark comedy. Holland Gets Promoted and Dooms the World by Mark Waddell. Warning, under no circumstances must employees strike a deal with an unauthorized personnel on Dark Enterprises property. Such behavior may result in death or the end of the world. Colin is a low-level employee at Dark Enterprises, a hell-like multinational corporation solving the world's most difficult problems in deeply questionable ways. After years of toiling away in a cubicle, he's ready to climb the corporate ladder and claim the power he's never had. The only problem is, he's pretty sure he's about to be terminated, terminated. That's tough, because his BFF has just set him up with a great guy. In fact, maybe he's a little too great, and he asks a lot of questions. When Colin meets a shadowy figure promising the deepest desire in return for a small, unspecified favor, he can't resist the urge to fast-track his goals. He asks for the one thing that will improve his life, a promotion. But that small favor unleashes an ancient evil. So this one sounds very humorous. Very, very humorous. Next up is a sequel book in a series. I don't think it has a definite number of books yet. It's going to be Queen Demon by Martha Wells, which of course started with The Witch King, a story of power and friendship, of trust and betrayal, and of families we choose. From the first book, after being murdered, his consciousness dormant and unaware of the passing of time, while confined in an elaborate water trap, Kai wakens to find a lesser mage attempting to harness Kai's magic to his own advantage. That was never going to go well. But why was Kai imprisoned in the first place? What has changed in the world since his assassination? And why does the Rising World Coalition appear to be growing in influence? Another title that I want to get to that I have not yet. I just recently read the first Murderbot, though, so, maybe now I will get on with more of her books. Then we have a new series in an established world. Hopefully that makes sense. Once you hear the author name, it'll probably totally make sense. The Finest Age of Twilight by R.A. Salvatore. My name is not Drizzett's daughter. Breezy Duundren is more than just the heir of legendary heroes. For the past decade, she has dedicated herself to the study of combat magic and, more recently, to the elusive way of the shadow, honing her body and mind into a keen and singular weapon. Meanwhile, in the shadows of Westbridge, Dahala Sinfel plots her rise to power. Once a broken soul, Dahala has few friends and fewer options to make her way through the world. As Breezy fights her way through the shadows, Dahala follows her dark ambitions. Both seek to find their place in a world that can be both brutal and beautiful, no matter the challenges. Their divergent paths are forged by the same choice. Their fates will be theirs, and theirs alone. This is, of course, set in a Dungeons & Dragons realm world. Things to eventually read, heard great things about the Drizzt books and want to read the D&D books. Diving into a new series, Academy of Outcasts by Larry Correia. All Oz Carnarvon ever wanted was to become a master mage, except to do so requires the natural gifts or wealth necessary to secure an appointment in one of the prestigious magical academics in the core city at the center of the Seven Realms. Oz had neither. He was born without magical talent, serving in an elemental plane of fire, a nightmarish hellscape of treacherous lava and vicious monsters, where life is cheap and escape is rare. But a carnivorous never gives up. When Oz fakes his death to get out of his family's contract and crosses the Nexus Gate to sneak into the core, everything seems to be going according to plan, until he gets blamed for the assassination attempt of the Fire Realm's ambassador. This is supposed to have an academic-y setting to, like thieving. I really should have brought that last paragraph of the description over to remember this. It's a thing, and he's going to have to mischievously get more things accomplished. More sequels, though. How to Survive a Fairy Bargain by Laura J. Mayo. This is the sequel to How to Summon a Fairy Godmother, or How Not to Summon a Fairy Godmother. So it's a fairy tale retelling and a twist on it, as it's from a different perspective than who the main fairy tale is normally about. Like, the first book says, Lady Theodosia Balfour is screwed, with the Balfour estate on the verge of bankruptcy and Theo's royal stepsister spreading wicked rumors about her. Theo's only path forward seems to be a forced betrothal to a foul-tempered geezer who wishes only to use her as a broodmare. Desperate for help, Theo clings to the only thing that might save her, the rumor of a fairy godmother. After discovering a way to summon one, Theo thinks her prayers might have been answered. But the fairy she meets isn't at all what she imagined. She's drop-dead gorgeous and slightly devious. Cicely of the Ash Fairies is much more interested in smoking her pipe than providing charitable magic to humans. The second book is going to continue on what the story started, as I do believe we're still following Theo in her new situation with the fairy Cicely. Our next sequel is kind of one of those standalone companion type novels, I believe, because we are following entirely different characters within this world, though. That's going to be Mate by Allie Hazelwood, that started with Bride. This time we are following Serena Paris, who is an orphan, packless, and one of a kind, as she's the first ever were-human hybrid. And also Cone Alexander, the alpha of the Northwest Pack, as he's commanding obedience and authority's absolute, and only fools will threaten his mate. Even if, maybe she doesn't actually want to be with him, but he is going to keep her safe, so she's okay with the situation. But of course, things will change as werewolves and vampires and humans are all out to kill Serena. Book 3 in the Coven of Bones series is coming out. That's The Damned by Harper L. Woods. This started with The Coven, which is a dark academia witches fantasy romance. I realize that I have not been saying the genres this time. Hollows Grove University is where the best and brightest of their kind learn to practice the magic free from human judgment. No one talks about the bloody massacre that forced it to close its doors a decade prior, only the opportunity it can afford to those fortunate enough to attend. Because for the first time in 50 years, the Coven will open its wards to the 13 promising students destined to change the world. That's the premise of the first book and the alluring headmaster, but it never mentions the main character's name in the description. Only that she's kind of forced to go to protect her younger brother. And also this week, that needs hardly any description, Lore Olympus Volume 9 by Rachel Smythe. And this one is going to be collecting episodes 207 through 233, following, of course, the retellings of Olympus tales in the webtoon animation format. Moving to October 14th, we start with a novella in an ongoing series. Lives of Bitter Rain by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is going to be book 2.5 in the Tyrant Philosophers series. City by city, kingdom by kingdom, the Palatine have sworn to bring perfection and correctness to an imperfect world. But before these ruthless tyrant philosophers send in their legions, they dispatch Outreach, the rain before the storm. Outreach is part of the POW machine that is responsible for diplomacy, converting enemies into friends, achieving through words what an army of 5,000 could not, urging the oppressed to overthrow their bloody-handed priests, evil necromancers, and greedy despots that subjugate them. And in this one, we seem to be following a 12-year-old who is the daughter of one of these Outreach peoples, and seeing it through their eyes. I think probably also somebody else's eyes. Most of these are normally multi-POV as well. We continue on with another sequel, A Scar in the Bone by Sophie Jordan. Its first book was Fire in the Sky. I think it got a bit of mixed reviews, but it has dragons. It says, well, the dragons were extinct, the witches are outcast, and magic is dying. but humans' lust for power is immortal. And then this one, we are following Tamsin, who is kind of like the royal whipping girl for the princess. And when somebody from an enemy nation comes to them, and apparently, I don't know if there was a negotiation to get the princess to marry him or forcing it, but Tamsin's sent in her place to marry deceptively this enemy ruler, which of course works out not great until it does, because it's a romantasy, so obviously there's going to be some falling for each other and things happen. For a more cozy fantasy, we have The Keeper of Magical Things by Julie Long. Certainty Burlish wants to be useful to the guild of mages that took her in as a novice, to the little brother who depends on her, and to anyone else she can help. Unfortunately, her tepid magic hasn't proven much use to anyone. When Certainty has the chance to earn her magehood via a seemingly straightforward assignment, she takes it. Never mind that she'll have to work with Mage Aurelia, the brilliant, unfairly attractive overachiever who's managed to alienate everyone around her. The two must transport minorly magical artifacts somewhere safe. Shelping? The dullest, least magical village around. There, they must fix up an old warehouse, separate the gossipy teapots from the kind of flaming swords, corral the unruly little cat dragon who is tagged along, and above all, avoid complications. The guild's uneasy relationship with citizens is at a tipping point, and the last thing needed is a magical incident. I mean, it does sound cozy. It sounds the first part of the description as well. I think it was the latter part of the description that I didn't read to you that also gave cozy, so I'm sorry, but I didn't want to tell you too much. A completely different type of book and series starting is more of urban fantasy, except it's like alternate our world sort of thing. Red City by Marie Lu. Alchemy is the hidden art of transformation, an exclusive power wielded by crime syndicates that market it to the world's elites in the form of sand, a drug that enhances those who take it in more perfect version of themselves, more beautiful, more charismatic, simply more. Among the gleaming skyscrapers and rolling foothills of Angel City, alchemy is controlled by two rival syndicates. For years, Grand Central and Luminese have been balanced on a razor's edge between polite negotiation and outright violence. But when the two childhood friends step into the delicate equation, the city and the paths of their lives will become irrevocably transformed. It has similar themes, I believe, to some of her other works, from the sounds of it. Then a sci-fi, we have All That We See or Seem by Ken Liu. Julia Z is a young woman who gained notoriety at 14 as the orphan hacker. She's trying to live a life of digital obscurity in a quiet Boston suburb. But when a lawyer named Piers, whose famous artist wife Ellie has been kidnapped by dangerous criminals, barges into her life, Julia decides to put the solitary life she has painstakingly created at risk, as she can't walk away from helping Piers and Ellie, nor step away from the challenge of the digital puzzle. Ellie is a dream artist who can weave the dreams of an audience together through a shared virtual landscape live in a concert-like experience by tapping into each attendee's memories and providing an emotionally resonant narrative experience. While these collective dreams are anonymous, Julia discovers that Ellie was also dreaming one-on-one with the head of the international criminal enterprise, and he's demanding the return of his dreams in exchange for Ellie. I mean, all of it is so out there, interesting. There's a lot going on there, I think. Okay. Moving into the week of October 21st, we do start out with more romantasy-tinged ones that are sequels as well. The first up is The Captive in the First Blood Game by K.A. Lindy. This is the second book of The Monster in the Last Blood Match, which is in the same world, but I still believe this one also takes place before The Wren in the Holly Library. The books with the really, really long names, which is an alternate version of our alternate timeline of our world, where of course monsters have come out that they are real and out of the, darkness. The first book said, in a world where humans are currency and vampires rule from the shadows, Rena accepts a high-paying position among the wealthy and ruthless elite. Her new job, a live-in blood escort for the enigmatic and dangerously powerful Beckham Anderson. She expects cruelty, she expects hunger, she expects to become his next meal. But he ignores her. This one says everyone wants a piece of her. He wants it all. Then our next one is The Things Gods Break by Abigail Owen, with the first book being The Games Gods Play, which is another Olympian retelling urban fantasy sort of romantasy. The gods want her dead. Hades will bury them all. For this world, our main character is living as a cursed office clerk for the Order of Thieves. I just want to keep my head down and hope the capricious beings who rule from Olympus won't notice me. Not an easy feat, given San Francisco is Zeus's patron city, but I make do. I survive until the night I tangle with a different god. The worst god, Hades. And apparently, all the gods fight in this thing called the Crucible to determine who the ruling elite are, but they don't fight themselves. They choose humans, champions-ish thing. I don't even know if they're champions. I know it says the gods need mortals to compete in their stead. Off onto a completely different standpoint, we have Girl Dinner by Olivia Blake. Good girls deserve a treat. Every member of the house, the most exclusive sorority on campus, and all of its alumni are beautiful, high-achieving, and universally respected. After her freshman year, she would rather forget. Sophomore Nina Carr knows being one of the chosen few accepted into the house is the first step in her path to the brightest possible future. Meanwhile, adjunct professor Dr. Sloane Hartley is struggling to return to work after accepting the demotion to support her partner's new position at the cutthroat university. So she's just kind of coming back to work after this maternity leave, and everything feels different. Her body feels different, her clothes, her marriage. So when she's invited to be the house's academic liaison, Sloane enviously drinks in the way the alumni seem to have it all, achieving a level of collective perfection that Sloane desperately craves. But both women will discover things might not be as they seem within the house and how they get their privilege and power. In a historical fantasy romantasy twist, we have The Isle in the Silver Sea by Tasha Suri. In an England fueled by stories, the knight and the witch are fated to fall in love and doom each other over and over, the same tale retold over hundreds of lifetimes. Cimarron is a witch of the woods. Vienna is a knight of the queen's court. When the two women begin to fall for each other, how can they surrender to their desires when to give in is to destroy each other? As they seek a way to break the cycle, a mysterious assassin begins targeting tales like theirs. To survive, the two will need to write a story together stronger than the one fate has given them. But what tale is stronger than the knight and the witch? I'm interested to see how this one goes. For a paranormal thriller horror, it just does sound a little creepy. We have King of Sorrow by Joe Hill. Arthur Oakes is a reader, a dreamer, a student at Rackingham College, Maine, renowned for its frosty winters, exceptional library, and beautiful buildings. But his idle and burgeoning romance with Gwen Underfoot is shattered when a local drug dealer and her partner corner him into one of the worst crimes he can imagine, stealing rare books from the college library. Trapped and desperate, Arthur turns to his closest friends for comfort and help. Together, they dream up a wild, fantastical scheme to free Arthur from the cruel trap in which he finds himself. Wealthy, irresistible Colin Wren suggests that using the unnerving Crane journal, bound in the skin of its author, to summon a dragon to do their bidding. But there is nothing simple about dealing with dragons, and their pact to save Arthur becomes a terrifying bargain in which the six must choose a new sacrifice for the King of Sorrow every year, or become his next meal. There's a lot happening within that description. Concluding a YA duology, we have The Demon and the Light by Axie O. It started with The Floating World last year. Sun Hu lives in the underworld, a land of perpetual darkness. An ex-soldier, he can remember little of his life from before 2 years ago, when he woke up alone with only his name and his sword. Now he does odd jobs to scrape by, until he comes across the score of a lifetime, a chest of coins for any mercenary who can hunt down a girl who wields silver light. Meanwhile, far to the east, Rin is a cheerful and spirited acrobat traveling with her adoptive family and performing at villages. But everything changes during one of their festival performances when the village is attacked by a horrific human-like demon. In a moment of fear and rage, Rin releases a blast of silver light, a power she has kept hidden since her childhood, and kills the monster. But she's not quite in time and must go off on a journey to find something to heal her uncle. They come across each other on their journey without knowing who the other one is, and they travel together and things unfold. Our final ones are the books coming out the week of October 28th, starting with Witches of Dubious Origin by Jen McKinley. Zoe Zykas enjoys a quiet life working as a librarian in her quaint New England town. When a mysterious black book with an unbreakable latch is delivered to the library, Zoe has a strange feeling the tome is somehow calling to her. She decides to consult the Museum of Literature, home to volumes of indecipherable secrets, some possessing dark magic that must be guarded. Here, among their most dangerous collection, the Books of Dubious Origin. Zoe discovers that she is the last descendant of a family of witches, and this little black book is their grimoire. Zoe knows she must decode the family spellbook and solve the mystery of what happened to her mother and grandmother. However, the book's potential power draws all things magical to it, and Zoe finds herself under the constant watch of a pesky raven while being chased by undead Vikings, ghost pirates, and assorted ghouls. I'm not sure if this is cozy fantasy or not, or just, contemporary fantasy. Maybe it's just contemporary fantasy in entry-level witches, real world, those sorts of things. Then we have the conclusion to the Book of Dust trilogy, which is the companion trilogy to His Dark Materials. The Rose Field by Philip Pullman. Malcolm Polstead and his Damon Astra are used to overhearing news and occasional scandal of the inn run by his family, but during a winter of unceasing rain, Malcolm finds a mysterious object and finds himself in grave danger. And that is how this trilogy starts. I think over the course of the trilogy, it goes from before His Dark Materials to during to after, to give a broader scope of the world and more depth to certain things, I think. Another sequel book, though, is Blood for the Undying Throne by Sung-gil Kim and translated by Anton Her. The first book in this series was The Blood of Old Kings. Nothing can stop the Empire's insatiable conquest. Not gods, not dragons, not armies, but heroes still rise. The first book says, in an empire run on necromancy, dead sorcerers are the lifeblood. The corpses are wrapped in chains and dragged and drained of magic to feed the unquenchable hunger for the imperial conquest. We follow 4 main characters, I believe, because it says, born with magic, Ariel has become resigned to her dark fate, but when the voice of a long-dead sorcerer begins to speak inside her head, she listens. Miles away beneath a volcano, Seven-Eyed Dragon also wears the Empire's chains. Before the imperial fist closed around their lands, it was the people's sacred guardian. Then Lauren, a widowed swordswoman, is the first to kneel before the dragon in decades. She comes with a desperate plea and will leave with a sword of a dragon fang in hand and a great purpose before her. And in the heart of the imperial capital, Cain is known as a man who gets things done. When his best friend and mentor is found murdered, he will leave no stone unturned to find those responsible, even if it means starting a war. I did hear good things from the people that I have heard who read it. It hasn't been spoken of a lot, but I have heard good things. For the other side of the fantasy spectrum, Never Ever After by Su Lin Tan. Life in the Iron Mountains is harsh and unforgiving. After the death of her beloved uncle, Yining has survived by becoming a skilled thief and even better liar. When she acquires an enchanted ring that holds the key to a brighter future, it is stolen by her step-aunt, and Yining must venture into the imperial heart of the kingdom to seize it back. Amid the grandeur of the palace, Yining catches the eye of the ruthless and ambitious prince, who tempts her with a world she's never imagined. But nothing's as it seems, for she's soon trapped in a tangle of power, treachery, and greed, her only ally being the cunning advisor from the rival court who keeps dangerous secrets of his own. And I do believe that one's going to be more romantically tinted. This one is quite interesting because it is part of its own series, but in a broader world. And from the description of it, though, it is set to also be a good entry point into this world. The first book in the series was also supposed to be a standalone entry point to the world, but it has become its own series. That's Dead Hand Rule by Max Gladstone, and the first book was Dead Country. It's supposed to be a sequence of novels that will bring the sprawling saga of the craft to its end and the perfect entry point for this incomparable world. I'm not sure if every book is following different characters. The time until the end times ticks away. If the world has any hope of surviving, it may come together now. Our first book, Dead Country, was following Tara Abernethy as has resurrected gods, pulled down monsters, averted wars, and saved the city twice. She thought she'd left her dusty little hometown forever, but that was before her father died. As she makes her way home to bury him, she finds a girl as powerful and vulnerable and lost as she once was. Saving her from the raiders twisted by the gods' wars, Tara changes the course of the world. It seems to be a fairly long series, too, which sounds very interesting and like a thing that I need to try. Our final book of the month is The Everlasting by Alex E. Haro. Sir Una Everlasting was Dominion's greatest hero, the orphan girl who became a knight, who died for queen and country. Her legend lives on in songs and stories, in children's books and recruiting posters, but her life as it truly happened has been forgotten. Centuries later, Owen Mallory, failed soldier, struggling scholar, falls in love with the tale of Una Everlasting. Her story takes him to war, to the archives, and then to the past itself. Una and Owen are tangled together in time, bound to retell the same story over and over again, no matter what it costs. So that one has an interesting tint to it, an angle, though, to see how this story goes. Those are all the ones I have on this fairly long list this month, though as I said, I still have this nagging feeling like I've missed something big and important and it will smack me in the face in the middle of October. Probably. So if there are any other books that you know of coming out that you're very excited about for reading in October and want other people to know about, feel free to drop it in the comments down below. I hope, though, that you did maybe find one off this list, a series or a new one to start, or add to your ever-growing TBR list, as I do, then that you enjoyed this video and you'll come back for more. And I really hope that you're finding something awesome to read today, and I will see you in the next one.